Hi, so this is Joanne Kelleher with the Early Childhood Collaborative of Southington, and today we have with us Merrill Gay from the Connecticut Early Childhood Alliance, who's going to talk to us about how to be an advocate.
All right, let me share my screen, put it into present mode. Picture always shows up over the present button. Okay, so advocacy, what is it? It's the act or process of supporting a cause or proposal. And so here are my basic rules on the elements of effective advocacy. The first is their power numbers. You got to know what you want. You have to understand the system that you're working in. You need to figure out who has the power to fix the problem. Specifically, which person or people have the power. Then you need to be able to make a compelling case. And then when at first you don't succeed, try again. You'll see behind me, there's a banner here from the National Alliance for Better Childcare. That was from the last big national effort to create a better childcare system. It's what got us the Child Care Development Block Grant and Care for Kids. It was the 1990s. I found the banner in the closet and thought, well, that's appropriate. I should stick that up on the wall. But you know, here we are trying again to make another go at having a really much more robust system of childcare in this country. And we'll see if we can move it further than the last time. So let me work through those steps or elements of an effective advocacy effort. The first is the power in numbers. It's really easy to ignore an individual. It's a lot harder to ignore a group. And the bigger the group, the harder it is to ignore. There's an old adage in community organizing, which is their power comes from organized people, organized money. So, you know, there's been stuff in the news recently about how the super rich in this country don't pay taxes. Well, they've used their organized money to buy the best lobbyists and lawyers to create tax breaks and get them into the tax law so they don't have to pay taxes. So all the rest of us pay taxes. And you know, the Buffetts and Bezoses and Musks of the world pay very little in comparison to their income. So going back to the, you know, power, there is more power in numbers than if you were just a single person who's got a problem. So the first question is like, do other people share this problem that I think, you know, needs to get solved? And you know, so how do you find that out? You ask around. So, you know, your kid comes home from school and says, I don't want to go to school. My teacher's mean. Okay, well, maybe what happened was your child was, you know, mouthing off and your teacher told her, you know, his teacher told him to sit down and be quiet. But maybe this really is a teacher who doesn't understand how to manage a classroom and is always screaming at kids. Well, so how would you find that out? Maybe ask some other parents in that classroom. So, you know, start with the likely suspects and then listen to their stories, because what you may find out is that there is somebody who this problem that you're experiencing is actually a much bigger problem for them. Or you might find out, wow, that person is really articulate. They really know their stuff. I want that person to be the spokesperson for this cause, right? Because they're much better than I am. And so then the next thing is you need to know what it is you want. As an elected official, I'm the president of the Board of Ed in New Britain. I always appreciate it when people tell me about a problem, but if they just tell me about the problem and they don't tell me how they want it to be solved, I might turn to the superintendent and say, this is a problem. And she might come up with a solution that for the person who complained actually makes it worse. It solves a problem that the superintendent understood, but not the problem that the parent was experiencing. So you, as the advocate, need to understand what is it that you want. And so the best way to do that is to work with the other people who share this problem with you and figure out together, how would we like this problem to be solved? And if the problem is, if the solution has multiple parts, you need to sort of set some priorities. What are the things that you absolutely have to have? What are the things that you'd really like to have? Sort of what's the nice to have, so that you know that if this is a problem that costs money and there isn't enough money to do everything you want, what's the stuff you need to have to, you know, make it not as bad. And then anytime you're trying to solve a problem, understanding the system that you're working in is really important. I would say the number one reason that people feel powerless is that they've complained about something and it didn't get fixed. And it's that they didn't understand how change got made in that system. They, they complained to the clerk at the city council about something and didn't understand why it was the city council didn't pass the resolution. Well, they didn't talk to the right people. They didn't understand who had the power to make a change. So how do you, if this is a system I've never worked in, how do I find out how it works? Well, ask people. And you ask people, how do things work? And who else might give me, know more about this? Because probably the first person you ask is, might have a little better idea of how the system works than you do, but it's likely not to be the right person the first time. You've got to ask around, get some more information. And then sometimes it helps to look at public records to see, are there minutes for a meeting where this was decided? Was there, if I look at the minutes of the meeting where this thing I don't like was decided, I could from that see who spoke in favor of it, who spoke against it, who are the people who are likely to be on the other side, and who are the people who would be my allies. So the next thing you want to ask is really, who has the power to fix this problem? And then once you sort of have a theory of, okay, I think I understand how the system works, and I think I know who has the power to fix this problem, then you want to ask some more people and confirm. Because you might think you know the answer, that I need to talk to, my school principal to solve this problem, when actually this is something that the Board of Education Policy Committee needs to change a policy on, and that the principal doesn't have the power to change this. So asking around, getting a sense of how things work, getting a sense of who might have the power to change this or to fix the problem, and then going back and sort of testing that with some more people. And that will help you get a better sense of who has the power to change to fix the problem that I'm trying to get fixed. Then you need to learn about the person who has the power to fix the problem. How do they make decisions? Is this somebody who is a collaborative decision maker who takes a lot of input from other people? Or is this somebody who's pretty autocratic? Who do they listen to? So years and years ago, when I was a college student, we were working on trying to pass the bottle bill in Massachusetts. And we were trying to get it through the legislature. We passed it through the legislature. We'd gotten it through the legislature. The governor had vetoed it. And now we were trying to override the governor's veto. And we had to turn a couple of people who had voted against it the first time to now vote for overriding the veto. And we asked about, we were looking at various legislators, and one of them is this crotchety old guy. And we asked around, who does this guy listen to? And someone said, priests and nuns. So someone said, well, I know the priest at his church. I'll go talk to him. And so priest talked to him. And then someone else knew one of the nuns at the convent there. She talked to him. He was really hard to persuade. So someone looked, it's like, what does this guy do? He has a regular routine. He stops at the diner, and he buys a newspaper, and then he gets in the car and drives to the Capitol. So somebody went to the diner and found the waitress who talked to him, waited on him every day, and got her to mention the bottle bill. And then the guy sold the newspaper, and he liked the bottle bill too, so he mentioned it. So this poor legislator arrives at the Capitol the day of the vote, and he's like, I talked to my people. It's like, everybody I know is asking me about the bottle bill. Well, I guess I'll vote for it. So having people who are influential with the target helps. And then, what's important to them. So if this is a person who is particularly interested in business issues, if you're talking about the need for expanded childcare subsidies, you want to approach it from the perspective of, look, this is important for getting women back into the workforce to fill the empty jobs that employers can't fill right now. That's why we need to have this. If this is a person who has an education background, maybe what you want to be talking about is the importance of child development and how critical those early years are. But so knowing what's important to them helps you craft what's the most powerful argument to go at them with. And then finally, this is an ace in the hole. Who can't they say no to? So years ago in a past life, when I was a not-for-profit housing developer in Waterbury, I was trying to get financing to renovate some old abandoned buildings in St. Margaret's Parish, in the Willow Plaza neighborhood of Waterbury. And we were talking about 5 or 6 different buildings. So it needed a lot of money to do this. And so we put together a proposal for a low-income housing tax credit, and we had to get an allocation of tax credits. And that was controlled by CHFA, and it involved bonding. And so as I asked around, I'd submitted my application. It was sitting there and sitting there and sitting there. And, like, when are they going to make a decision? And so I asked around. What I basically was told is, look, this is really political. This is the governor's office that controls what gets put on the bond agenda. So in my regular report to the priest at St. Margaret's about the progress of this project, I mentioned this, and he said, you do know who my secretary Marie has lunch with every Wednesday? I was like, no. Well, you go talk to Marie and tell her that I told you to talk to her about talking to Mrs. Rowland. It was John Rowland's mother that she had lunch with every Wednesday. So a couple of days later, I get this call from a gravelly voiced Mrs. Rowland. So Marie says, I got to talk to you. What's this about? And I told her the whole story. She said, okay, I'll talk to Johnny. And a couple of days later, I get word that it's going on the bonding agenda. We're going to get the financing. John Rowland couldn't say no to his mother. Mrs. Rowland couldn't say no to the priest. That was the cycle. That was the progression of things. Knowing who somebody can't say no to can be really helpful. So then of course you need to be able to make a compelling case. You need to establish that you're not some crazy person. That's not usually that hard to do. You need to provide accurate, useful information to whoever the policymaker is. If you're providing information that isn't true, that's going to kill your legitimacy. So make sure what you're providing is correct. And then personal stories are what stick with people. I love me a good graph and a good chart, but legislators see charts and graphs all the time, and they go in one ear and out the other. What is much more compelling is hearing from a constituent who can talk about the impact of the problem. And what you are left with is the emotion that you felt when that person told you about, the impact of not being able to get care for kids so that they could go to college when they had a scholarship to pay for college. You leave that going, oh, that's a screwed up system. That doesn't make any sense. I got a person who's, earned a scholarship and wants to make, improve themselves, but they can't access the Care for Kids system because it's only if you're working. I should say, we just changed that this year. So it's about to change as of July 1st. But stories like that are what helped to move that legislation. And I had a legislator tell me that was one of the first calls she got from a constituent. And it's stuck with her since then, that she had somebody in her district who had gotten a scholarship and was ready to go to college, but couldn't juggle college and parenting a toddler. And because she couldn't get care for kids, she couldn't access childcare so that she could go to college. And she had to delay college until her child was old enough to be in kindergarten. So, and then you want to make it clear what you want. Just telling somebody what the problem is, well, as a elected official, I like to know what problems are, but then that leaves me with the obligation of trying to figure out how should it be solved. If somebody has a good idea on how it should be solved, I want to know. That makes it easier for me. And then you want to always ask people if they'll work with you to solve the problem. You want to, if you're sitting down and talking with all the members of the city council one at a time, you want to count votes. You want to figure out, does this person actually support me, or is this person just listening and smiling? So you always want to, after you've made your case, ask, can I count on you? Or, maybe they'll say, well, you make an important case, but I need to figure out this and this before I can make a decision. Okay, great. What information can I get you to help with your decision making? And then, of course, if at first you don't succeed, try again. As I said about the banner behind me, that's from the 1990s. And we are going back at it again, trying to get a universal childcare system. And when I talked about organized people and organized money, I used the example of organized money being able to, protect super rich people's tax or income from having to be taxed. Let me give you another opposite example, the power of organized people. Come January, if you are sick or injured and can't work, or you adopt a child or have a child, or you have a family member who you need to take care of, you will be able to take paid time off. You will be able to get up to 12 weeks of paid family leave. That is something that doesn't exist in many states. And that is because of organized advocacy of a tenacious group of people who, it took them about 7 years to get it through the legislature. There were lots of false starts there. But we created a system where there's a 0.5% deducted from all of our pay, and that creates a pool of money that if my mom fell and broke her hip and needed somebody to take care of her, I could take time off and not go broke to take care of her. I always think back to going to the diner and seeing the jar with the little sign saying that the waitress who'd been there for years had fallen and broken her leg over the weekend. It wasn't a workers' comp claim. She did it at home, and they were taking up a collection to help her pay her rent. Well, that was a nice, generous thing they were doing, but it's not how you run a system. It's not allowing her to have paid time off to recover from her broken leg so she could come back to work is a humane thing to do. And now we have a system that can do it because advocates fought for it. And it didn't pass the first time around. It took a lot of trying again. And so if you're doing something and you fail the first time, you want to start asking yourself, did we understand the system correctly? Did we target the right decision makers? Was our solution something that was in their power to deliver? And then, is there something we could do to make our case more compelling? And can we recruit other allies, particularly someone who they can't say no to? This is kind of a cycle of, I have a problem. Are there other people who experience this problem too? Can I get them on my side? Because I will have more power. Okay, now who's got the power to change this? Okay, what's the system that they use? Is this the superintendent's decision? Is this the mayor's decision? Is this the governor's decision? Is it really the governor's decision, or is it the legislature and the governor? So understanding so that how do I go about doing this? And then finding allies, making your case, and if you don't succeed, start over again and keep doing it. So, questions? So, I think this is essentially a framework, whether the advocacy is about your kid not wanting to go to school because he says his teacher is mean, to try and figure out first of all, is this a legitimate problem, or is this just my kid, reacting to being told to be quiet and sit down? Or, something much bigger like, so many people having jobs where they don't know what their schedule is going to be next week, or whether they're going to earn enough from that job to be able to pay their rent, because, the employer promised them that they were going to get full-time employment, but they never seem to get a full shift. And the shift keeps changing on them. And so it's really hard to schedule childcare. Okay, well, so that's a problem that a bunch of people experience. If you're that individual parent who's struggling because, it's hard to schedule childcare so you can go to work because the schedule keeps changing, it's really difficult for you as an individual to solve that problem. But if you come together with a lot of other people, maybe you can. And that's sort of advocacy, is that there's power in numbers. And we need to understand the system we're working in to be able to make change and ask the right people to make the change.
So on the Early Childhood Collaborative website, I have a page about advocacy with links to how to contact people at the state federal and local level, along with a different presentation that you and a former Connecticut Early Childhood Alliance staff member had presented probably 4 years ago now about advocacy, which has a totally different approach than this does. It gets more into the nuts and bolts of reaching out to legislators. So what I'm going to do is add this one to that page. I will share it with everyone, and I think the combination of all of that information is going to be helpful.
And, you know, it is really important to understand the mindset, the sort of political philosophy of the person you're trying to influence, because there are some arguments that will resonate with some people better than others. If you have somebody who is a fairly pro-business conservative person, you want to pitch your proposal in terms of how this is good for business. If you have a liberal child advocate, maybe you're talking about child development issues. But you know, that person who, when they're not at the legislature, is an insurance broker and deals, you know, customers are all business people. They're a very business-oriented person. The child development stuff may be completely out of their realm of thinking and not an argument that's going to be very persuasive to them. But if you're making the argument, say, I'm sort of looking in terms of a universal childcare system. If you're looking in terms of this is how we increase labor force participation among women with young children, and there are examples of places where this has worked really well. In Quebec, when they instituted a system of what was then $5 a day childcare, labor force participation among women increased so much that the added earnings of those women and the taxes that they paid on their earnings, plus the additional sales tax generated from all of their purchases, ended up paying for the cost of the childcare program. That's an argument that somebody who's a business-focused person might think, that's really pretty interesting. And, you know, so you have to figure out how to appeal to the person who you're dealing with.
Yeah, here in Southington, there will be a group of us who are working towards a referendum on the building of a new library for November. So there were one or two points that, like, yeah, personal stories. We don't have that on our list yet.
Yep. And social media makes it possible to do stuff that in the past you needed to pay money for. Yep. Having a good list of people who will all share things, and having, you know, great story, you know, the combination of people talking about, yeah, the library's been great. It's where I was able to use a computer and, find a job, or a little kid talking about the excitement of, getting to go read a new children's book. You want to have sort of the whole range of people, because you think about who typically votes in town referendums. Tends to be the older folks. And, so you want to have folks, you want to give folks a reason to vote for this. If you're doing a referendum, it's because you want to spend money, and that means potentially taxes go up. And those are, you've got to give people a pretty compelling reason why that should happen.
Anybody else have a question for Merrill?
I will just, referendum story. long, long ago, I had a girlfriend whose mother was part of the school board in creating the school board in Shoreham, Long Island. When they built the nuclear power plant there, they all of a sudden had a tax base, and they separated from Port Jefferson, and they were creating everything from scratch. And she and a bunch of moms were very involved in all of this effort. And they had to, make every decision, like, okay, what sports are we going to have? And they looked at this and said, well, we could have a football team, or for the same amount of money, we could have 8 other sports for boys and girls. What if we start with the 8 other sports rather than football? And so they did it. Well, all the football guys were kind of opposed to this. And what ensued for the next decade were battles over control of the Board of Education and the school referendum, the school bonding, or the school budget referendums. And what those moms who weren't real big fans of football figured out was that when they wanted to pass a referendum, they got all the parents to turn out. When they wanted the referendum, when they lost control of the school board and the football guys took over and they wanted to kill the budget, they just turned out senior citizens who voted down the budget. And they went back and forth for years with no football team, because this group of moms figured out how to make sure that budgets that didn't include football, that supported all the other sports, got approved, and budgets that include football got killed. Just an interesting, it's like it was really a matter of who voted in the election and who got reminder calls to get out to vote.
So thank you, Merrill. I'm going to turn the recording off, and then I'm going to ask you to stay a minute to see if anybody has any other questions about early childhood issues, like you mentioned, Care for Kids. So let me stop that.